Welcome back to another video and ultimately my London Marathon experience. It has been a few weeks since the race and I've only now managed to get around to filming this, but I did want to film one last video as part of the London Marathon videos that I've been putting out over the last few months and just ultimately the outcome of the race. First of all though, before getting into the recap, I do want to say a massive thank you to everybody who supported and donated to the MS Society. I ended up raising £2,840 plus £640 of gift aid, which is just absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful for all the support and just people supporting the MS Society and just raising some money that goes to such incredible research and hopefully can just help other people who have experienced or are experiencing MS like my mum did for so many years. So really grateful and thank you so much. So as for the marathon, I'll keep this short and sweet so this video isn't too long. I've got some notes in front of me which I'm pretty much just going to read from just to keep me on track and keep the video short. So morning of, it took about 45 minutes or so to get to the main area for my wave. So a few trains and a tube, which obviously there was quite a few people heading in the same direction. So that was just cool just to chat with other people and hear why they were running the marathon. But then once you get close to the main area, you kind of really start to realize how many people are actually running the marathon. And as soon as I got to the main area, I got in line for the toilet straight away because the queues were absolutely insane. And literally as I got to the back of the queue, the announcer started saying my wave needed to get to its area, which wasn't ideal because the toilet took at least 20 minutes or so. So yeah, my bit of advice would be get in the queue straight away and also to take your own toilet roll because you won't be sorry that you packed that on race day. Once the toilet situation was done, I then headed to my wave, which was wave 3, and that was for a goal time of a sub 3:45. But obviously if you've watched my previous video, at this point I know I'm not going to try and run at a 3:45 pace because of my hip injury, but what I did do was write down the splits for each 5k mark on my phone for a sub 3:45 all the way through to a sub 4-hour marathon. And just the aim was ultimately just to hold a pace in between those two and see if I could come close to a sub 3:45 ultimately. Once it's then your wave's turn to kind of slowly make your way to another area, you kind of wait in this other area before the start line for about 20 minutes or so, and then you slowly start to make your way to the start line. But in that area it's pretty quiet. Everybody's kind of just getting in the zone, listening to music, but you see a lot of charity vests, and as at that point you kind of start to think a little bit about all these people are running it for a certain reason. You don't know what that reason is, but everybody's got a reason for being there. And I kind of just started to think about the last few months of training, all the hours I put in, and just starting to think about my mum and that I was about to do the London Marathon ultimately. And there was a video I came across a few days before the London Marathon, incredible piece of content, which I'll link in the description. It certainly put a lump in my throat watching it. It is an incredible piece, so well worth a watch if you've done the London Marathon or if you're planning on doing it as well. You then eventually get to the start line, and one bit of advice you typically get from people is they tell you to slow down and hold yourself back, because normally you've been tapering the last couple of weeks, you've got a ton of energy, you're feeling great, and the last thing you want to do is go out too quickly because you feel so good. But because I hadn't run for 2 weeks prior, my legs felt so heavy that first kilometer. I had no pain in my hip flexor, which was great because I wasn't sure if it was just gonna flare immediately because I hadn't run for 2 weeks, but my legs certainly didn't feel as fresh as I was hoping they would feel. But nonetheless, I had no hip pain, so that was the main thing. So I just thought, let's try and hold a decent pace and just enjoy the day and see if I can get near a 3:45 time. So the first 10k, I was keeping my splits under a 5:30, so not bad at all things considered, but I did notice that my heart rate was very high straight from the start, which I knew at some point was going to be a problem later on because there was no way I could sit in that heart rate zone for that long. But honestly, I think the crowd and the noise just made it so hard to keep my heart rate down. I was just enjoying the atmosphere, trying to take it all in, high-fiving people, because I knew my time of a 3:45 was going to be pretty hard to achieve. So I did kind of just say to myself, just make sure you enjoy the day. The London Marathon is kind of a one-off thing. I can run another marathon in the future for a specific time, but to run the London Marathon as my first marathon is just something that will never happen again. And you know, the last few months have been tough emotionally. I was pretty drained going into the marathon, to be honest, and probably dealing with a bit of grief that maybe I hadn't fully acknowledged up to that point, and maybe I still haven't, but I did just kind of want to leave it all on the course and just get those feelings out that I'd been feeling the last few months ultimately. And I think it was just a great way to do that. At around the 11k mark, I think it is, you then come to the Cutty Sark, and honestly, the sound that comes around at that part of the race is just insane. The noise was just next level and the atmosphere was just incredible. The whole entire course, the atmosphere is great, but you just have one or two areas specifically that are just next level. I knew my friends and family were at this point, so I was just looking in the crowd trying to find them, and I did find them at that one point, and it was just an awesome feeling to see them. The adrenaline at that point, and again my heart rate was just absolutely through the roof. From 13k to Tower Bridge, which is about the 20k mark, you can then start to see my splits dropping. At this point my hip unfortunately is starting to flare up a bit, my technique is starting to break down, and I'm just really compensating for my hip. So I could feel myself kind of cramping at this point as well. So yeah, as you can imagine, it's not ideal to then know you've got another half marathon at this point to go, and ultimately it's just going to start to really hurt from this point onwards. Half marathon point onwards, again you can see my splits, it was just a jog / limp, honestly. I was just really struggling. There was a lot of pain with my hip. I was cramping in my hamstrings, calves, quads, just my whole right leg basically. Everything was really starting to flag at this point, but again you have people just shouting your name, people obviously you don't know, just random people. They see your name on your vest and they're just encouraging you because they can see how much pain you're in. And the support, again, it just, for me, in my opinion, it makes it almost impossible to not finish the race, even if you are in just a lot of pain, because you just got to put one foot in front of the other. When you get to that mental point of thinking, oh, should I drop out? This person just shouts your name and encourages you, and it just makes you take another step forward. So yeah, absolutely incredible atmosphere throughout. With about 2 to 3 miles to go, me and this other guy, we kind of just kept coming alongside each other. I would go a bit quicker and then he would catch up and go past me, and it was just kind of going back and forth. And it was just a really cool moment of just looking at each other and seeing that we were both struggling quite a lot, and just looking at each other and being like, come on, let's do this together. Let's try and just stay side by side for as long as we can to the finish. And yeah, again, just a really cool kind of bit about the London Marathon, which I think separates it from any other race ultimately. It's just the people there and why they're doing it. Then just before the turn at Big Ben, I came across my friends and family again, which was pretty emotional in all honesty. At that point they'd probably covered a marathon themselves, trying to get to a number of different points to see me. But after seeing them, it was just, again, the mental standpoint of just knowing one foot in front of the other, get over that finish line. Honestly, Big Ben to the finish was pretty much a blur. I don't really remember a ton of it. I think I was just in my own mind, just talking to myself mentally, just saying to get across the line, do it for mum. And that was all that was going through my head. I didn't even look at the crowd at all or any markers to see how far it was to go. It was just head down and just go for it. And then I got across the line. So finishing a time of 4 hours 16, which, I mean, look, I'm a very competitive person. I set goals for myself in all aspects of life, and I didn't achieve the time that I had trained for. But going into this marathon, as I said, I had a lot of built up emotion and whatever else the last few months have kind of had in store and what I've been dealing with. So I really felt like a lot of pain was lifted, or I don't know what the right word is, but just I got a lot of stuff out of my system during that 26 miles. So that was huge for me, regardless of the time that I ended up finishing with. But overall experience was incredible. I will enter the ballot every year just to experience the atmosphere of the London Marathon. I think it's just such a cool event, and if you're lucky enough to get to do it one day, then I would certainly not pass up that opportunity if you can. I have taken the last few weeks off just to let my hip flexor recover a little bit before kind of planning on getting back into another training block. I do want to obviously work towards that sub 3:45. I feel like I've got a bit of unfinished business with that time, and hopefully maybe towards the end of this year I'll look to do another one. But yeah, I think for the next few months I've got a few things I want to do in terms of like half marathons, 5Ks and 10K events, alongside just playing a bit of golf, because I'm absolutely loving my golf at the moment. It probably led to my hip injury, if I'm honest, for thinking back to it. But yeah, the next few weeks are going to be a case of playing golf. I'm going to enter a couple of golf competitions this year, alongside training for 5Ks, half marathons, 10Ks, whatever. So yeah, really appreciate everybody kind of watching the last few videos I've put out for the London Marathon. I plan on putting more content out soon, hopefully more around kind of golf and training and life in tech sales, living in London, whatever. But yeah, just kind of continue training and enjoying life. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.